Ever find yourself stuck daydreaming? Like at your desk staring out the window and suddenly you're, I don't know, picturing yourself as the boss.
Huh, yeah, calling all the shots, setting your own hours.
Exactly. Ditching the 9 to 5 grind and finally being your own. Well, boss.
The entrepreneurial dream, right?
It's a classic question, isn't it? Should you climb the corporate ladder or take the plunge and become an entrepreneur?
It's a question a lot of people grapple with, and that's what we're diving deep into today.
Today's deep dive is all about exploring this age-old dilemma. We're taking a look at a piece called Work for Someone or Become an Entrepreneur, the truth no one tells you.
And I think we're going to uncover some pretty interesting insights along the way.
I think so too, because let's be real, both paths seem to have this almost mythical allure, don't they?
Definitely. You hear about the stability and comfort of a traditional job, the steady paycheck, the benefits.
Yeah, the health insurance, the paid time off, it all sounds pretty tempting. There's something to be said for that sense of security, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Humans are naturally drawn to predictability. It's in our nature to seek out security and stability.
Makes sense. But then you're also bombarded with all these stories of entrepreneurial freedom and like unlimited earning potential. It's a bit of a tug of war.
It is, and what often gets lost in all the hype are the trade-offs, the realities that aren't always so glamorous on both sides.
I see what you mean. So let's start with the traditional job route, the security of that steady paycheck, the benefits, that built-in structure.
It definitely has its appeal, but the thing is, that stability often comes at the cost of autonomy.
So you're saying there's a price to pay for that peace of mind.
In a way, yes, you're trading a certain degree of control over your time, your creative input, maybe even the direction your career takes.
You're not necessarily calling the shots anymore.
Right. So the question becomes, is that a trade-off you're willing to make? Is that security worth potentially giving up some of that control?
Good point. And that brings up another big question, work-life balance. Does having a structured job actually help with that? Or is it just a different kind of time commitment?
That's the tricky part. It really depends. A structured job can provide boundaries, which can be helpful for some people. You clock in, you clock out, and theoretically, your work stays at work.
Theoretically.
Exactly. But the reality is you're still beholden to someone else's schedule, and there are always deadlines, demands, and expectations to meet.
And sometimes those demands can spill over into your personal time, whether you like it or not.
Unfortunately, that happens more often than not. And on top of that, our source material points out something interesting. A lot of employees end up feeling trapped.
Trapped.
Yeah, stuck in their roles with limited opportunities for growth. They might start feeling like they're hitting a ceiling.
Like their career is stagnating.
Precisely. And that feeling of stagnation, that lack of control over their career trajectory can be incredibly demotivating over time.
That makes sense. So on the one hand, you have the security of a traditional job, but potentially at the cost of autonomy, and maybe even facing some career limitations down the line.
That's a good summary of the trade-offs.
Okay, so let's flip the coin and talk about the entrepreneurial path. Unlimited earning potential, being your own boss, setting your own hours. It's the kind of freedom most people dream of, right?
It is. It's the dream that's sold to us, isn't it?
The entrepreneurial dream. But if we're being honest, what's the reality check here?
That's where the truth no one tells you really comes into play. Entrepreneurship, it's often romanticized, but in reality, it's much more complex. It can be incredibly demanding.
Demanding how?
In every way, really. You're talking long hours, constant uncertainty, immense pressure. It's a constant grind. You're essentially betting on yourself, on your ideas.
Which takes a lot of guts, to be honest.
It does. It takes immense courage and resilience. Because let's be real, not every entrepreneurial venture succeeds.
And that means facing the very real possibility of failure, of financial instability.
Exactly. And that weight, that responsibility, coupled with the pressure to succeed, can be incredibly heavy. Not to mention the emotional toll it can take.
I can only imagine. And what about the freedom aspect? Setting your own hours, working from anywhere, is that really how it works?
It can be, but it's not always that simple. The lines between work and life often blur when you're an entrepreneur. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and end up working all the time.
So that freedom comes with a catch.
It often does. It can be difficult to switch off, to separate your work life from your personal life, and that can strain relationships and impact your personal time.
So we've explored both sides, and it seems like there's no easy answer here. Each path has its own unique set of challenges and rewards.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
So if someone came to you for advice, trying to figure out which path to take, what would you tell them?
I'd ask them to really think about their personal values, their priorities, what's most important to you, what are you willing to prioritize, and what are you willing to compromise on.
So it's not about finding the right answer, but rather the answer that aligns with your own individual values and aspirations.
Exactly. It's about finding the path that resonates with who you are and what you truly want out of life.
Because in the end, it's about designing a work life that fulfills you, right?
That's the ultimate goal. Now, here's a final thought I'd like to leave our listeners with. What if the ideal path isn't one or the other? What if it's not about choosing between being an employee or an entrepreneur, but about finding a way to blend the two?
Interesting. You're talking about a hybrid approach?
Exactly. Maybe it's starting a side hustle while you still have a traditional job. Maybe it's finding a job that offers a lot of flexibility and autonomy.
Or maybe it's even creating your own unique path that combines elements of both.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? There's no one right way to do this. It's about getting creative and finding what works best for you.
That's a great point to end on. So for our listeners out there, remember there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But by understanding the realities of both paths, and even considering a hybrid approach, you can empower yourselves to make the choice that truly aligns with your values, goals, and aspirations.
And who knows, you might just discover a path you never even considered before.
And that's what makes this whole journey so exciting.
Absolutely.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But we hope this conversation has given you some food for thought and maybe even inspired you to explore new possibilities.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.